even really gonna worry about the camera right now.
Yeah, someone comes on.
kind of vocal resistance that Westcliff ran into from the original episodes here with the Planning Commission and trustees. So what we saw was all of us need good support on community relations, but particularly Westcliff to get you over the hump. Whereas what we needed, and there may be an element of land use that might be valuable for one of these outfits to look at in Westcliff regarding where you want the infrastructure. In Silver Cliff and for the county, we plan to use Prop 123 money in Silver Cliff, and so that requires us to have the housing needs assessment. We also are going to go for a housing grant from DOLA, separate from Energy and Mineral. This is a different division of DOLA for part of our project. And also, we'd like somebody that's qualified to look over our shoulder, look at what our concept is up there, tell us, does this make sense, or are you shaking your head? And support us with a cross-checking and maybe development from our draft pro forma to validate the numbers that we're using in the pro forma. So when we looked at the two organizations, and I'll come down to my observations, Aries appears to be much more shovel in the ground oriented. That is to say, building stuff ready to roll. And which is good, and they've done well. They've had a good reputation on their transportation side. That's not the same as their housing needs assessment side.
Very, I apologize for interrupting, but you know, I thought about that as I read through your reviews was Ayers, because dealing with them here for the sidewalk project and all that.
Right.
I wonder if were they an engineering firm first and then they got into this later on? I don't know.
I never asked that, but I did specifically ask how they related to the engineering side. And they're under the same corporate roof,
Right.
but it's a very
Separate
different
division.
grouping of people. It's not the same staff
Right.
that would be doing what we're doing.
I understand. No, I get that. It's just.
But that said,
Respect.
later on, I can see where they might possibly be helpful in actual development. They did some interesting development in Craig, but it was all commercial, or let's say private enterprise, not public. As I went through both firms, I began to get a sense that Aries was a lot leaner operation, fewer people in their operation. And as I really drilled into it, I learned that some of their people, in one case, they were citing someone with 13 years experience, had only been employed at Aries 4 months. And they really liked Aries. They actually went to work there because of work that Aries had done for Evans, the town of Evans. But I don't want to call that a misrepresentation, but it did trouble me a little bit. However, that person was very good. I liked talking with them. Aries, I was a consultant for a long time. And there's a term in consulting that we use. It's called, there's some firms that eat what they kill. And what that means is that you're out there working hard to tie up a job. And if you get that, then you're going to put all your resources on it. If you don't, you're going to have to go to the next thing. Aries is of that category, in my opinion, which is a good thing. I mean, they're hungry and they expressed hunger. But CAI and with CPS, I'll explain them in a minute, they're a much larger organization overall. They have a deeper bench, and they're an organization where they're doing quotes all the time, and they pick up what they get and move on with that. And what they don't get, they don't cry about. So I was concerned with the depth of the bench. on the two firms. And as I got further into it, what I found in talking with both companies, that the CAI slash CPS, and I'll explain that in a minute, they had a much richer understanding and experience of how to bring a community on board. They had a lot of depth and a lot of creativity in that area. Aries' number one approach was to do a mail-out survey, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that, except you don't really get as much. The stuff that, and it's in my notes that I gave Aaron and Bob and Isaac. Sorry, I keep leaving you out.
I had them.
I gave her.
Oh, thank you, good, thank you. What I found is they had a stunning, I mean, two different staff members had a stunning array of ways to get at the quiet ones. They even used the term, the quiet ones. Over the holidays, I read 3 books on housing. And all on why we are suffering from housing nationwide. All of them had a common theme that said, literally in some cases, that the NIMBYs have way too large a representation at town meetings in proportion to the population. That is to say that we're being driven by a minority, almost tyrannized by a minority. And we saw that clearly here. And they were, CAI and CPS were so sensitized to this being the real truth, and you've got to deal with that somehow. That really meant a lot to me. The CPS is a separate organization from CAI. They collaborate with companies like CAI and Aries. They actually do work for Aries as well. They just happen to be who CAI picked on this quote, and so they went with CAI. They're a separate company with a lot of history in Colorado. And something we saw the first day when we interviewed these guys on the Zoom with the 1-hour interviews was they got a guy named DeLubach, who was the smartest guy in the room, hands down. And not just smart, but experienced. They're an older company. They actually have legacy clients throughout Colorado, towns that they have contracts with, that they get called when they need a zoning change or whatever they need. So I came away feeling like I liked the orientation about the community, and I also liked the capabilities that I found at both CAI and CPS. Both companies were okay, but in the end, my opinion was that for the needs we have, the CAI CPS combination was the strongest, had the strongest bench. I liked everything, all the conversations I had. And so that's why my conclusion was they're the right firm for us. Us being the collective jurisdictions that need this service. I don't think anybody would get fired for hiring Aries. Honestly, they're not a disreputable company. They do have experience in Colorado, but they don't have the depth and breadth that the CAI CPS combination is. And frankly, had we gotten a quote that was just CAI and another one was Aries / CPS, they might well have gotten it. I think the CPS component really moved the thing in one direction. So I'll stop with that. I liked all the people I talked with. Again, I talked with 4 people from each firm, and they were all responsive and interested, and I believe knew their business. So I'll just stop there and let Isaac, you want to chime in?
Yeah, I don't have, I guess, much to add to that other than I had a separate than the interview, had an hour-long phone call with Lubach, just personally with him, and I mean, I really came away from that conversation feeling like from a relational level, it was a no-brainer. And I did due diligence on the other side with Aries as well, kind of a similar guy he would be kind of facilitating a lot of the community outreach. And it was a positive conversation as well. I want to echo what you said too. I didn't feel like it was, I don't think there's any dirt on Aries or any marring of their company. It's just, my due diligence was just kind of getting a feel for responsiveness, relationship, goals. And DeLubach even told me, he said, look, we're not looking at, shovel in the dirt is not our tact. We're looking at a long-term relationship that's going to be much more relational and long-term investment than just getting a project done. And I think for all three communities, all three municipalities, if you will, that's the direction we need to go, and it's gonna be most beneficial. So it was, for my due diligence, it was not nearly as data oriented or educational in that sense, but that was the pulse that I got as well and came away with. So yeah, and again, too, addressing the need in my mind right now is public outreach, public education, bridging those gaps of, what we want to do, what needs to be done, and then kind of putting to bed the nomenclatures of, we're not out to get people, we're not out to destroy views or whatever, right? We really want to solve a problem.
Oh, man, the buses are.
Yeah.
They're ready to send them up, right?
20-story apartment is coming in.
Yeah, I think CPS, CAI is really, that's a strong suit for them that I think addresses an immediate need, but then is sustainable for a long time, so.
What's the word? Our focus here, and because you guys may not be aware of this, our focus on this community support is not just to take the heat off of you guys in a town hall meeting. DOLA DOLA requires real evidence, not like a letter from the Chamber of Commerce or you. Yeah. It requires real evidence of community support, or they will not fund. And so this is a key piece that I think a lot of people just figure we're just trying to tamp down the naysayers, which I don't mind doing that at all.
Sure.
But it is a crucial piece of why they want a housing needs assessment, because there are a lot of communities where the resistance is so high that it's a waste of money. And so that's part of why we're highly focused on this, helping the community. We really want to see the community come around this, not just shut up the same dozen people, but have people saying, we're engaged here, the quiet ones. We want, anyway, sorry.
Did you all get to talk to these folks too, or just you talk to the towns?
Barry wanted me to reach out to some of the references
Okay,
in the
the
proposal,
reason I asked that,
Yeah.
thank you.
but I wasn't in on the interviews, and Caleb
remember that.
didn't include me in any of the
Shame on you.
stuff, so.
But no, for me, I'm sitting here as a business guy and all that. I'm a developer. And so if I were gonna come in and invest in here, number one, I don't want, people, protesting, carrying signs out to keep my trucks from coming and my staff from coming in. So with that, did you ever touch on with either of them, how they're perceived, or, their track record with the developers? Because that's the whole idea. I mean, they're not trying to come in and build houses or build buildings. They want me to come in and do that. Right. So did that get involved?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we talked about that with Ridgeway, and DeLubach actually has done stuff down in Herfinale County that's not even in their resume. And they, what's her name? Courtney Senna with CAI, talked quite a bit about how they brought the community forward to where it was supportive rather than ambivalent. In terms of picketers and things like that, we didn't get into that.
I understand, but I'm just
They
saying.
had good success. They had really good success in an issue in Atlanta, which it was 100% residential, single-family residential coding in Atlanta, and they came up with a way to work with the faith-based community down there to come up with land in that instance that was available. Ridgeway, Kremling, they were working there on a broader perspective where it is also a pass-through community.
Just through there 2 weeks ago.
Pass through?
Pass through?
Yeah.
That's
all I've ever
Their
done.
housing being built too.
And Hot Sulphur Springs similarly. So they have been successful in helping change. One of the things that both firms worked in a lot, and CPS more than anybody, is in working with codes. Now, we've seen a whole lot of sweeping through stuff in the last 2 years out of the legislature, kind of pressing smaller communities to open up their codes. Isaac's done a lot of work, and Caleb had done a lot of work on updating codes, but there's a long way to go. And one of the things that they talked quite a bit about is how to work with codes in such a way that it brings the community on board, that it shows the benefit to the community of adjustments in codes, not that we're gonna build a fourplex next to your $2 million.
And or build, on setbacks, on side setbacks, we're not gonna have two buildings that far apart.
Right,
That kind of, that, we've already heard that in planning.
yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
So that, I mean, that's the best I can answer that.
Okay, well, and I guess maybe, wasn't clear enough, but, do either of them talk about, have a following of developers? In other words,
Oh,
I
yeah.
know that Ayers, or I know that, CAI, man, they're ready, and I'm gonna be, it's gonna be a good deal for me, because it's real, those are real
Right.
numbers, those are real needs.
Yeah, short answer is yes. But both of them talked about finding funding, bringing funding into communities. Northeastern Colorado in the case of Ayers, and a couple different facilities in the case of CAI, bringing funding in, different places that they're familiar with bringing funding from. That was more toward the commercial side, Bob, than public stuff. Ayers did a project in Craig where they took a block. In fact, it looks not unlike the block we've got up in Silver Cliff. And they helped bring in funding to develop that block. Got the coding changed, zoning changed, but that was all done commercial. And it's not really low, it's not affordable class, but it was a good use of the land and it was reasonable properties. They both had experience and contacts that they have ways of bringing funding or associating with funding and credibility with funders. But I don't know how much that may help us right now, because what we're doing is public stuff at the moment.
I get that, but I'm saying is again, I'm an investor and I want to invest,
Right.
in this type of stuff. And there's lots of companies around that do that.
Yeah.
But in other words, when they go in and say, oh my gosh, they use CAI, but I've already done 3 and none of them worked.
Yeah,
I've got vacant properties, you know what I'm saying? It's a worst case scenario. So
yeah.
in other words, I would guess that me as a developer would follow along knowing that this firm, is the real deal, and I'm not gonna, less chance of getting burned. There's no guarantees.
A brief part of one of the conversations I had with DeLubach, we touched on land use, and this is Westcliff specific, and how there might be ways to do things here that would be more attractive to a commercial developer than what we've talked about so far. We didn't get very far with that conversation, other than to say, yeah, we've done exactly that before, where they were looking at this plot of land next to the railroad station, and instead they came over here at another place that already had infrastructure, whatever, and they were familiar, or not familiar, I mean, he talked specifically about that, and that's a fair amount of what they do is this more integrated, longer term work, where you look first at what are you doing with building and zoning? Where is that hurting, and what are you doing with the community concurrently, parallel to that? And then what are the opportunities? What do you really need to build? Of course, housing needs assessment, part of it is, what do we really need? That is an open question. So those kinds of things we're talking about with both firms. I came away with CPS feeling like he really knew exactly how he wanted to hit the ground running.
I feel like, you know, for your question, kind of touching off of that, there's really a whole data product that they're gonna be able to offer a developer and say, hey, look, like, you know, either it comes from a government funded DOLA representative or whatever, or if we go to the private sector to say, this is the research that's been done and it's complete. This is a thought through, that, I mean, the sidewalks being a certain width because of a plow, or all of that's been covered. This is all we need is money, right? And here's the data to show. I never got the sense that there was a roadblock. It would be interesting to contact developers that had worked with these companies previously, but it was never a thought in my mind that I was like, you know, there's no evidence of anything, a private developer actually being not interested. So, but that, I mean, I think that's valid to think about. That's usually a hurdle when it comes to up here with any kind of private sector.
Yeah, in fact, earlier on, when the county was looking at trying to do something privately, one of the things we kept running into was we did not have good data on a housing needs assessment to
You didn't have any to
convince.
sell. You had the land, but you didn't have, you
Right.
didn't have the means to sell it.
Right,
Again, because I'm putting my money into it.
Right. You want to see everything.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the only way you could get around it was to just give them everything. Okay, just
And
give
let them
them.
do what they want.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, was the only way you could get anybody to the table at all. We had a guy from Texas that had done low-cost apartment buildings in Texas, came in early last year and gave us a pretty good presentation. And then he went through how much the capital stack, okay? And he went through different increments of capital stack that we had to contribute to bring him to a point of interest in building it all. And it was ridiculous. And he emphasized, are you sure you need, you know, at that time, I don't remember what we were talking about, but it was apartment buildings at that time. And so, and in fact, that experience was one of the things that led us to, in Silver Cliff, looking very carefully at manufactured housing rather than stick-built local, which has multiple sides. But I'm gonna come back to Aaron because you'd asked. So Aaron got in late, but when you read the DOLA contract, which we'll talk more about, but you read the DOLA contract, there is a lot of administrative work that's gonna have to fall to somebody that has administrative responsibility. And so one of the things I was curious about, since she got in late and couldn't really do the other kind of due diligence, was, and I knew she had experience as a town clerk, but I didn't know what you might have in the way of this process, you know, construction stuff. So what I asked is that she take their references, you know, town manager of Ridgeway, so on and so forth.
Peers.
And yeah, talk to peers and see, well, how are these guys to work with? Do they bill on time? Do they, you know, And maybe you want to talk about that for a minute there.
Yeah, I mean, they were short conversations. Barry had two on each proposals references. Only one got back to me for, CAI, the other woman just never called me back, but I mean, overall, they were all good. Good things to say about both of them. The only kind of, I don't know if I want to say negative, but semi-negative comment against Ayers, just some kind of clerical math errors on billing.
So,
Yeah, I mean, but the other reference had nothing but good things to say. So, you know, the town has worked with Ayers on
Yeah.
other things. But I mean, that was really the only negative thing I heard. Overwhelmingly, you know, they both, all the references said had good working relationships with each of them. They met deadlines. They attended meetings when they needed to. So, you know, a minor, what I would consider, you know, minor errors in billing. It wasn't anything outstanding, like they royally messed up.
Right.
So I, you know, like I said, that's the only kind of negative thing I heard. But then the other reference for errors, the person from Craig was delighted with them. So, I mean, everyone has a different experience.
thank you.
Hey, you did talk to the one in Ridgeway?
I did,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Ridgeway?
Preston Neal, and he had a really great experience with CAI. He had nothing but good things to say, and kind of what both of you said is just kind of more an overall picture, you know, bigger picture of getting the community on board, not just like, all right, we're doing this project, boom, we're out of here, you know. And we do have an issue with community being on board, as we've all seen at
No.
planning commission and board of trustees
No,
meetings.
Ridgeway is pretty parallel to us.
Yeah,
Okay,
It's a
it's
pass.
a little more higher in, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of ranches there.
yeah.
You know,
there
but
is.
we didn't have ranchers coming in here. We can't, I've learned it long enough that we don't need to keep harping on that. It's the new
Yeah.
people coming in that, anyway, we won't get into that, but.
I mean, people stop in Ridgeway on their way to Uray or
Yeah.
Telluride, and,
Exactly.
you know.
And
it's
I've
similar.
been through it plenty of times, but also, was one of the cool things, and maybe this CAI helped to do this is Buena Vista, you know, the manufactured, what's it called? Far East, no, Far West, or. Fair West. What's it called?
It's
Fading
ringing
West,
a bell.
Fading West.
There we go.
Yeah.
And they built a cool community over there in Ridgeway of their buildings. I mean, I drove through there after I learned about them. I did a lot of, not a lot, but I mean, I'm very familiar with them, following them through Colorado Business Journal, because they featured them the last 5 years. And anyway, and so last time I went over that way, I said, I want to go check this out. And it's pretty damn cool, just like their one is Buena Vista.
Yeah.
You know, type of thing. You've seen those things. So anyway, so it'd be interesting to see, maybe give old Preston a call back sometime. Hey, did you all do that Fading West project? I don't know if that's what it's called, but
Yeah.
it has a special name.
I'm not a big fan of Fading West.
Okay, sorry.
They sing a good song if you've got a large enough project.
Okay, yeah.
Their stuff
They've
is,
matured for that,
right,
I guess.
right. And they are right at, one of the things that works and that I have discovered as I've researched a lot of this stuff in the last couple of years. One of the reasons that we talk about AMI all the time. Well, when you look at AMI in some of the more popular like ski areas or Ridgeway, their 100% AMI
Oh,
is 30, 40, 50% above ours, okay?
no, I get that.
And so when you want to house people at 40% AMI, it makes a difference in how much money you can
You can put it in the
spend
building, yeah.
and how much you can charge for rent. I mean, I just was through the Chafa stuff the other day on this, and it's stunning how much the more you can charge as a landlord, all right, in one of these communities, even though you're building what's characterized as affordable housing, because their AMI to start with is so much higher, but the construction costs really don't scale up that much. They're about the same or similar. So that's, and that's where Fading West is making great strides, is they target these places that the AMI is gonna be high enough.
They can put a better product up there, or more valuable, we both know how it costs to construct these things. And I was so excited too, one time I was on the bike, I was coming through Leadville, and they were doing up there, and I went over and I was looking here for it now. It wasn't Fading West, but there were all the modulars came in on the highway, just like Fading West. And they were sitting there, and it's a muddy spot. But anyway, long story short. And so I went up to see where they were doing them in Leadville. Have y'all been to Leadville lately?
Not for a couple of years.
You'll recognize the north side up there where all the railroad stuff was across from Safeway. That's all completely redeveloped now. I mean, they got some really nice, it's a mix of apartments, duplexes, and single families, all the whole thing. But anyway, so
It's been involved in that.
there you go. But the thing is, and one of them, I went into it, it said open house. I went in to check it out, and nobody was there, but I picked up their brochure, but they were selling for like, $600,000-$700,000 too, because that AMI there is higher and all that. So anyway.
Yeah, it's, as you really get into this, you really begin to understand what a complex problem we
It
have
ain't easy, is it?
to build affordable, what we call affordable housing, and how much it's tied to the local economy. Anyway, and I don't mean to badmouth Fading West. They make a nice product. It's impressive. It's just, when I hear them, I know what I'm hearing, and it's a misimpression for here. We actually tried to work with them in January, well, actually December 22. We were after them to give us pricing for what we were going to do originally up in Silver Cliff. And we could never get them to give us a price. And I mean, that's half of what sunk that. That was a
They
$4
were on the
million.
Leadville project,
Well,
the Ridgeway.
well, there was more to it than that. There was politics involved in it, and that chilled me from the get-go, that they didn't have a list price book. Okay, it was all based on a system that they wanted to sell, and they wouldn't give you a price per unit. That just didn't sit right. Anyway, they're doing well, and they make a nice product, and I'll lay off of them, but, so where are we here? Aaron, you got any other thoughts?
I think we all have the same.
Yeah, so we're unanimous, Bob, the bench, so to speak, is unanimous on CAE, CPS. And it happens, it doesn't really make a difference because we're covered, but it happens, they were the lower bid.
Right.
Which is good, although it's one of the things, when we get to next steps, I want to talk about that. But, so that's where we are as a.
Well, unanimous, separately.
Yeah.
And you would
Yeah.
Right.
pick each other's brain.
No, not at all. In fact, Isaac and I played separately and then came together, and I did not give Erin our conclusions until after she had done her side of it and had her own conclusions. So it was as independent as it could be. And none of us have a dog in it. I mean, it doesn't really matter, other than we want the best entity, but there's, nobody's getting Christmas gifts from or whatever. So I guess we are decided that it'll be CAI and CPS quote? Unanimous statement, aye?
No, it's errors.
Oh, yeah. Wait, oh, no.
So, next steps. Obviously, right off the bat, somebody needs to contact the two firms. And give them the good news or break their heart. And I think that there should be a letter on letterhead to the, both firms. Certainly we can contact them by phone ahead of time to get them rolling because things happen pretty fast from this point. And would you like to contact them, Aaron, or you want me to?
I mean, I feel like since you did the interviews and talk to them, I don't mind doing the letter, and it's not that I don't wanna do it, but they're not gonna know who I am.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly all right. I just didn't want to step into your.
Yeah,
your-
I can draft, the letter for,
I'll give them a call tomorrow,
okay.
because I'm gonna be in town until late. I hope your people want to get out of that meeting.
They don't like to sit around too long.
Good, all right, I'm all for that. Okay, so you're gonna do us a letter.
Yeah.
And you have, the people, it would, it's in both cases, it's on their, proposals,
Okay,
who it'll be, but I'll send an email with who it actually is because there's kind of different people involved there.
yeah,
And
yeah, that'd be good.
the guy at Aries is the obvious one. He's kind of the head and only guy, but at CAI, there's a little bit more complex. And I'll give you
Okay.
the guys to contact. And I'll call them to let them know how things are and explain ourselves. And try not to burn any bridges because I think both firms will continue to be helpful over the years. The next thing is, I don't know if you've read the DOLA contract. Suffered through 20 pages of
Are you talking about Caleb's application, or,
the actual contract that we
okay.
received back from DOLA.
no?
Okay, so there's a couple things here that you really need to read that.
Okay.
Because this is where a lot of things will fall to you in terms of the billing. There's a very specific structure for billing.
Okay.
But also, there's a couple things that scares me. There's a couple things that need to be updated in that contract because it lists Caleb as the point of contact. We'll need to figure out that probably should be you in there.
Yeah,
Because the contract really is mostly associated with Westcliff. I went through it and there are a couple places in there that I want to make sure we're clear with DOLA. That we are, all the jurisdictions are eligible to use this housing needs assessment. There's a couple paragraphs that are a little flaky around that. And we want to make sure that's clear. I know that they were clear, but now we're going for it here and we don't want to get to a point.
So it would have to be exclusive Westcliff.
Right.
Because Westcliff's the applicant.
Right. Although it's funny, Bob, through the contract in different places, it says Westcliff or it says Custer County.
So they were sloppy too.
Yeah, right. But I think the first thing is you really want to get familiar with that contract. And the appendices at the end will be of particular interest because they give you the dates that you can bill. And you can't just bill any old time. It's specific. And so then the next thing that needs to happen is our contract with the firms.
right,
And what we want to do there, I think that's the one on the 14th.
Right.
In the afternoon.
you and I had talked about 2:00.
2:00,
You had
okay.
something until 1:30.
Right.
The original meeting was in the morning, but I already have a
You had something booked in
pre-existing.
the morning,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, so that's fine. There, we definitely are gonna want your lawyer, if he's available, because he's also the county lawyer, I think.
No, we've got someone,
We got a different guy now?
yeah.
Okay.
So our,
Ragosa.
yeah, so I can see if he'll zoom in.
Okay.
His court schedule's all over the place, but
Okay, well, we'll work because
Yeah.
with him first, because the firm will be glad to accommodate, I'm sure, whatever our timing is. And what we're gonna wanna do there is, we want to forward the DOLA contract to the winner
okay,
electronically to the winner of this, because their contract must comply with the DOLA contract. And there's several points in there that DOLA is real specific about. And so we want to make sure that their contract reflects that properly in the simplest way possible. And one of the things we need to do with them is, while they, in their proposal, they list hours for different people, that I didn't find in either proposal any statement around things like travel.
okay,
And they are gonna be coming here multiple times, and I wanna make sure we understand that we don't plan to pay travel expenses unless they wanna argue that out. But we need to know that, because we don't wanna be getting billings for expenses that DOLA then says, oh, wait a minute here, that's not part of it. Although it looked to me in the DOLA contract that something like travel would be admissible, but we don't want it sucking up hours or dollars that we want to spend in hours. So
right,
that's something we need to get clear with them. They were all familiar with Senate Bill 174, which is, DOLA just came out with a revised housing needs assessment template. Checkboxes that you gotta have. And it is in the contract, the DOLA contract, it brings that up. And we wanna make sure to tie these guys to that very clearly. Interestingly enough, CPS actually worked with DOLA on that later template to get that refined. Both organizations had good relationships and experience with DOLA. I was pleased to see that. So that's gonna be an important meeting so we can get that contract underway so that they can begin the work. Because we're not really allowed to bill for anything to DOLA until we're actually under contract with the third party. And then that kicks it off. The very next thing we have to arrange after that, and I'm gonna have one of the members of the Custer County Workforce Housing Committee on top of this, is the actual kickoff, where they come here. And for that, what they're requesting is key stakeholders in the towns and the county. They want to be able to meet with key stakeholders the first time around. And there will be more meetings after that. But this is going to be a very important meeting. Part of what's going to go on in the contract meeting is we're going to get real clear on what we really need for West Cliff, what we really need for the county, what we really need for Silver Cliff. Because the way the RFP was written, it was not really explicit enough, and the responses were flexible. In talking with the CAI people, they recognized that after we had talked with some of their people and after we had our interview, our Zoom interview, that it might be a little different ask than what they thought. They had no problem with the timer. It wasn't like, oh, hey, that's a $150,000 project, not a $70,000 project. But they are flexible, which is one of the things I like. They had the depth that they could plug other people in. But we want to make sure we have it down pretty firmly of what our deliverables expectations are, because that's also part of the DOLA contract. You've got to be real clear on what the deliverables are to get paid incrementally, because they want to know, this is like, well, okay, is the foundation in, you got your flooring, whatever. So some of that will go on in the contract discussion, but then the nitty gritty will happen in this next kickoff, which is not dated yet. And we're gonna have to come up with a date for that, but we really want to get that rolling as soon as possible because we really want this thing by the end of June. There's timing involved that if we don't have it by the end of June, it could be 2026 before anybody's breaking ground on anything. So that, and it also, the sooner we begin to get deliverables from them, because there will be incremental stuff coming, it gives your planning commission time to possibly rethink some of what they've been thinking about doing. And that's, we want to be able to roll that in because it might affect your eventual energy and mineral impact assistance grant ask, which I think has already been adjusted from 6 blocks down to 2
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
did the numbers change, Bob? Is there a new number that's been offered up to DOLA or Energy and Mineral?
Oh, well, yeah, it's less, you know.
Well, yeah, I get that. I
Less,
mean, is there an actual number?
yeah, what the amount is to put the infrastructure in?
Yeah, for the reduced.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay,
It's
good.
like in our match is way down.
Right.
So, yeah, that was all incremental.
Okay, I didn't know if that had actually
It did, yeah.
played through yet.
So I
Okay.
guess that's what the approval was based on the zoning say. So I guess that's not, that hadn't been finally approved yet because they're still waiting on this HSA. That's part of it. That's
Right,
where the last checkbox, right?
well, she said, didn't she say that she could use the 22 one for the application?
Oh, for the application, okay, cool. I didn't hear Randy say that. So.
Yeah, I remember she said that on the Zoom call, that would work.
Okay, good.
For the application.
Yeah.
But they probably wouldn't write a contract until you had the later one.
Yeah, I didn't hear her say that, I'm not sure exactly, but she said that was fine for them, she just needed an update on what the cost would be from Round Mountain.
Right.
And some of the language that we had in the master plan.
Right.
So I noted that,
Cause you forwarded her the email from Round Mountain.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard back. I mean, that was right around Christmas. I don't
Yeah.
know if she's been out of town or,
yeah, everything kind of
you
Yeah.
know,
slows
between
down.
COVID and Christmas, it was like.
Yeah,
I actually
but-
called in her myself, and I think I might go to her assistant about timing on a different thing, not you guys' stuff, but so,
Randy's usually pretty responsive, so I'm
Yeah.
thinking she was out of town for
I
the
think-
holidays.
Yeah,
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's not a problem. We're concerned with where the 2025 fiscal budget starts, when the first application you can put in. There is some ambiguity between UACOG's interpretation of DOLA grant requirements and Randy's. And that has worried me a little bit. UACOG is absolutely adamant that DOLA is not gonna provide funding without a current HNA. And Randy had offered that we could use the one from 2022.
And from what I would assume, this would be looking inside, from the outside, is the fact that you guys are basically shovel ready. Okay, we are not, in our application, which requires this HSA, is just for our infrastructure.
Right.
So you're here down the road, ready to go, and then we're down here.
Right, and that's one of the things
The pipes have to be in the ground before we can.
Yeah, that's exactly one of the things Isaac and I were looking at is the timing in the different jurisdictions and how these organizations can play to that.
Because you're gonna use it with UACOG, where it is,
Right.
first. You're gonna use
Yeah,
it
right.
to get your buildings built or under contract.
Right, although you may have your infrastructure contract going before we
Yeah.
can
No, I
get our
understand. Yeah, I
application
understand.
in for
Yeah.
the
But
housing.
again, as far as this HSA goes,
Okay,
you're gonna get to reap the rewards of it first. Which is great.
that's the hope.
We're a community, man, so we're all in this together,
How about that?
contrary to some people's thoughts.
Okay. You got questions? Did I cover everything and then to.
Yeah, we covered everything. I think first step, I'll reach out to our attorney, see if he's available on the 14th that afternoon. If he's not, I'll have him throw out
Some
some
dates,
dates and times
and then,
and we can figure that.
right, and I'll hand that to the CAI
Yeah,
as a preliminary timing, and then we'll
Yeah.
firm that up as soon as possible, because that's
And
only a
then-
week away.
we can draft the letters to both firms.
Okay.
You'll call them with whatever news.
Yeah,
If
I'll
you
call them
can-
and I'll send you.
Contacts.
Who the
Yeah.
contact, I mean, you have the contacts, I'll tell you which guy it is.
Yeah. And if you can send me that contract, because I don't think, do you have?
I got it
received-
from Kathy, so it's, in there somewhere.
I'll look-
But no, I have no problem, I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
Because before Caleb left, like I said, I wasn't CC'd on any emails or
Right.
included in anything.
Yeah, I'll email it to you. It's-
And then I'll go ahead and,
But
Give
it
it a
did come
read.
to me from here
Okay.
somehow,
okay,
so it may be somewhere in the
yeah,
ether.
I'll look
Okay.
for it too here.
It's an odd, it's like, the file name is like a EAST something or other. It's an odd name, it doesn't say like DOLA contract for.
Right.
Yeah, I
I'll send it to
I
you.
think
Okay.
maybe, yeah,
That reminds me, so if I want to email, the best thing to just, let's keep it I'll send stuff to you when you want and think that Melanie needs to have it, you can.
I'm
give it to
gonna
her.
CC her on all
Good, good.
correspondence moving forward, because she's gonna be helping out a lot as well,
So, because I don't want to confuse things by sometimes sending it to you and then other times it's like, I know you're not in the office, so I send it to you.
Yeah.
if we both get it, yeah, that would be
Yeah.
ideal.
Because then if someone's sick or someone's out of the office, we're all on the same page. and-
Right, well, so then I should send to both of you always, not
Yeah.
just,
Yeah,
I don't have your.
It's deputy clerk at townofwestcliff.com.
Okay, all
Just
right.
clerk,
Pretty
deputy clerk, town clerk.
and I can email
She's
it to you.
Town
Yeah.
clerk, I'm deputy
Yeah.
clerk, yeah.
Yeah, do that, so I make sure.
They
it's
all sound the
linked
same.
up.
I know, it's like,
I would rather have Aaron at down West Cliff and Melanie at town.
I know, because then it'd just be like all the trustees.
yeah,
So.
And also too, on the letter, that you signed it.
Yes.
Right.
Caleb was he signed everything before, so
Right.
you'll be now.
Right.
Right,
The
and
contact.
that's one of those letters we want to keep on file for Dolan.
Right.
It should maybe, or have you, just go ahead and send a letter to DOLA that you are taking over this responsibility.
Well, that's, I meant to ask about that. So that does.
That way it's a
Dolan-
paper trail.
Yeah, right, and I've been a little worried and wondered about this. Does Dolan know that Caleb is gone?
Yeah, Kathy emailed Randy at DOLA, like the day after it happened, so
Okay,
she knows.
okay, and she was like, okay with that,
I
presumably?
mean,
You
no
had a
one's,
meeting.
no one's really saying,
That's right.
I mean, it is what it is,
do,
but, she probably is a bit concerned because her and Caleb had a pretty close working relationship, so, I'll probably reach out to her and maybe just schedule a call with her just to kind of get me caught up. And I mean, I've met her before at town meetings and
Right,
stuff,
She's
but
cool.
yeah, it was really, her and Caleb that were doing all this.
so something you're gonna wanna know before you have that conversation. Where are you guys on, what are you gonna do about
We have a
town?
meeting Thursday.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. And you're it.
Yeah.
The workshop is on Thursday.
Oh, that's what the workshop's about. I didn't read what it was.
Yeah, so it's not our normal Board of Trustees monthly meeting, it's a workshop. And you guys are gonna have to
Decide.
figure
We're
something.
gonna do this. Hey,
You
don't show
know,
up, because, if you're here, you won't.
yeah, just, they're
I'm too
gonna.
old, you'd have to pay me to screw up my social security, so.
Yeah. The board's gonna look at both the town manager description, job description, mine, figure out if you still want a town man, I mean, a lot could happen. That's what the workshop is about.
That's what I really wanted to see, take a step back and look at that town manager description, so.
Randy sent a few example job descriptions for town clerk that I'll have printed out for you guys.
Oh, great.
Email it ahead of time so I can study.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna have printed out the state statutes that talk about the organization of the statutory town, not the
I've
city.
already read all that, but it'd be nice
But
to
I'll have
it.
that printed out as well, so that'll all be,
That's kind of where you gotta start.
No, absolutely.
I'm sorry, you know.
yeah, so it'll be ready for you guys Thursday, bright and early.
Right, early.
So you might wait until after that meeting to contact
Yeah,
Randy, so you can give her a little bit more information, but yeah, we are gonna do something, we
Yeah.
just didn't get rid of the town manager and we'll go on with life.
yeah, and you know, Neil's gonna be here, he's our park supervisor, because he'll be taking on a little bit more.
Right.
Melanie's gonna be in on the meeting, you know, all of our
Oh, the whole.
job,
Yeah,
they're just kind of shifting,
Yeah.
so.
sure.
Great.
And I don't think, if we were, you know, playing with you, but, you know, you were to take it over, you know, right now, I mean, this is all hot. We gotta have a contact, so I think that, you know, that Aaron is the contact for
Yeah.
this project.
Right.
And it probably won't change, you know.
Right.
Can't predict the future, but my guess is it probably won't, you know. That way it's finite. They know, because we don't want them to be sitting up in Denver,
Changing
worried,
things,
you know, what the hell's going on in West Cliff?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
That's the common question, it seems like, if you look on Facebook or anything.
Well, that's where all,
Oh,
we just get ahold of them, they'll tell us what's going on,
Yeah.
what we need to do.
Just
No,
pull them.
That sounds good, and really, right now, what we're doing is the housing needs assessment.
Right.
That's right, that's my point. is that-
Right, and so
This is
the
what's
town
delayed right
manager
now.
thing and infrastructure stuff isn't gonna be as critical and,
That's already in process.
Yeah,
That's already gone. So that's why I say Aaron, you know, is taking over that contact point for that grant. Hey, we have a customer. Hi.
I didn't even hear
Yeah.
the doorbell thing.
so,
I was talking, you couldn't hear.
do we have any other business we need to do?
No, I think we're all.
Great.
I butthurt, so that's good.
Well, hey, thank you for being here, Bob.
Yeah.
It was good to have somebody here.
You're welcome. Appreciate it.